All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you happen to be listening to this. How you guys doing? My name is Austin Shaper. Welcome to another episode of Mixed Martial Arts, a informal show where we cover the topics of UAP, UFC, and World War III. Today is going to be a UFC episode. It's going to be a short one because I've got work this morning. I stayed up late for last night's fights, UFC 290. Went to bed around like 1:30, and for whatever reason, I still woke up at the same time I usually do, or 15 minutes after. I woke up at like 7:15 in the morning. So running on not too much sleep, and I work a 10-hour day today. So fun times. I'm going to go through this episode as clear and concisely as I can, considering how tired I am. Maybe you guys can see that. Last night's card, if you guys watched it, I'm going to be giving spoilers, obviously. I don't think I should have to mention that. You guys should be able to see by the title of this video that we're going to be talking about the card that just happened last night. But I suppose I should let you know we are going to be going over spoilers. It was a crazy card. This was a different way of viewing it for me because usually we go to like B-Dubs or Dave & Buster's or one of my buddies' houses. And because my buddy moved to Tampa last month, we decided to stream the fight through my friend's computer onto Discord. So we were on a Discord server together watching it on our phones. Well, I think they were on the computer. I was on my phone. But it was really fun. I was a little distracted for some of the fights, mainly the co-main with Pantasia and Moreno. But it was a great card. It was really fun, and it was wonderful to be able to not have to make some long drive home after the card was over and to be able to just roll over to bed and go to sleep. So that was nice. What a card, though. As I mentioned in the last UFC episode, we kind of haven't been blessed with the best of cards as of late. We haven't had a real fire full main card and prelim in quite some time. This checked all the boxes. You had the drama, you had the action, you had the upsets, you had the finishes. What a night. What a good night. I'm going to start off with the main event with Alexander Volkanovski fighting Yair Rodriguez. I'm so freaking tired. Yair Rodriguez for the belt. It was a great fight. I think it kind of went the way that a lot of people thought it was going to go. Did it not? I thought that Yair had a chance, and I even mentioned in my last video that I thought Yair had the best chance of any contender, and I still think that holds true. He just didn't really get his moments in, did he? Volk really didn't let him. He did get his licks in a little bit, but it seemed like even when he was throwing the kicks, I mean, he threw quite a few head kicks and, tried to bring out that flashy, creative style he's got, and Volk just kind of shut it down. And even when a shot did land, it didn't land flush. I think there was like one or two jabs that did land on Volk pretty flush and quite a few leg kicks. So it's not that he got completely dominated, but it was very evident pretty early on in the fight that, Yair was going to have trouble in this one. And I think it went the way that a lot of people thought. Volk ended up taking him to the ground after landing a heavy right hand. I think Yair tried to throw a body kick, if I'm not mistaken, and then Volk countered it with a right, wobbled him, and then, backed him up against the cage, landed a good body shot and an uppercut, and then picked him up and just smashed him on the ground. And I think about 15, 20 seconds after that, the ref called it. It didn't look like Yair was finished. He stood up right after the fight was called, but it did look like he had nowhere to go, and the fight was just going the direction it was going. Wasn't much he could do about it. It's interesting because I thought there was going to be some unique circumstances for Max Holloway if Yair was able to pull this off in dominant fashion, and for whatever reason, let's say Volk had been injured and couldn't get an immediate rematch. Potentially, we're going to see Max fight a rematch with Yair for the belt. It's not the way things panned out. Volk keeps his belt, man. That's why he's considered the pound for pound, greatest right now. You got to give it to him. He's just smashing through people. I know that he's got a couple challenges left, you could say, at 145, but I think largely the feedback that I'm seeing is that people are ready to see that rematch with Islam. He was immediately talking about it at the post-fight presser, I believe, wanting to fight Islam again for that rematch. So we got to see that fight next. You just have to. And props to Yair. He put up a valiant effort, but you just so happen to be at a time where you got Volk reigning at the top of the division. So you can be one of the best in the world and still fall short of that goal of ultimately becoming champion. Let's get into a couple reactions from this fight. I thought it was a great one. This comes from Real Blex on Instagram. He says, Volk got hit with a huge hook and then a head kick and said, come on, bring it on, and finished him pound for pound king shit. I don't remember the huge hook. He did get clipped a few times, but he never worried me. I never saw him get hit to the point where I'm like, oh, he's wobbled or he's stunned or like, oh, wow, yeah, you could really turn the tables here. I didn't really think that. Right off the gate, it kind of seemed that Volk just, as usual, man, he's got the best game plan. He knows how to adjust. He clearly studies his opponents. He knows what their strengths are, and he just finds a way to never let them operate from their base of, whatever their foundational strength is in fighting, their techniques. He just kind of like forces them into, like this one, he kind of turned into an Islam, didn't he? He beat him up on the feet. He beat up Yair on the feet and then took him to the ground and just, beat him until it was over. He just kind of just adapts his style to whatever is required of him, and it's one of the reasons I think he's, you got to put him at pound for pound right now. Iquez Marquez says, my Mexican people just got sent back 1,000 years. I don't know about that, man. Yair's a beast. I guess he's talking about Moreno losing his belt as well. Yeah, I don't know. What are you going to do, man? The Mexican fighters are amazing, but not every night can be yours. Let's see this. Young Ryan says, or Young Thean says, top 5 MMA fighter of all time. Talking about Volk. Yeah, I guess so. It's hard to really argue that right now. He's in the prime of his career, even coming off that loss with Islam. All I did was raise his stats and his, the respect level we have for him. So yeah, he is definitely, I got to say, how could you not put him at top 5 right now? Liar Bobosar says, Tapiria won't do shit either. No one is close to that man right now. Hard to disagree with that. It's hard to imagine a world right now where Volk is losing at 145. Potentially when he goes up to 155, fighting Islam again, or let's say he beats Islam, and then he fights another contender. You could see him. It's possible. It's feasible that he could lose up there because the size advantage, the weight advantage, this, possibly the reach, the height. His opponents are going to have a lot of advantages on him, right? But here at 145, where, even though he's possibly the smaller guy in terms of, like, size, he's got a crazy reach. He's got a crazy reach. Even though Yair was quite a few inches taller than him, I think Volk still had, like, a half an inch reach advantage. So it's hard to imagine somebody beating him at 145. Everybody's tried just about. We got, like, 1 or 2 contenders left, but do you really favor them in any chance to beat him? I don't. Casual Sino says, yeah, this dude should not fight at featherweight no more. It's ridiculous. He seems he has no competition there. It really does. It's getting to the point where he's, just like his training partner Adesanya, he's clearing out the division. I don't know what they're doing over at that camp, but they're doing something right because these guys are just straight up dominating the sport right now. It's absolutely beyond impressive. SC Burns says, Ila Topuria versus Volk next, guaranteed banger. Yeah, I can see that being... I don't even know if I think Topuria would have a better chance than Yair did. I don't think so. I really don't. He got clipped quite a few times flush in the Josh Emmett fight. I'm talking about Topuria. So I don't know. I don't see that at all, but I do think it would be a great fight. And we kind of, if for whatever reason Volk is not able to go up and fight Islam, I guess you got to give him to Topuria. And then eventually if Arnold Allen gets back on a win streak, toss him, Arnold Allen. But ultimately, that's kind of all that's left right now, unless I'm missing somebody. I think that's about it in the division. So we could see him fight those 2 guys and then go up. I think that the demand for the Islam fight is there, so I would imagine that's probably what they're going to do next. I didn't have time to check out the post-fight presser, so I'll have to go do that, and potentially my thoughts on it will change based on what they talk about. But right where it stands now, I think, yeah, let's get that Islam rematch. It makes sense. And then to go from there. Moser Warrior 4 says, this shows how good Islam is. He outstruck Volk. Debatable. Would have to go back and watch it. Would have to go look at the stats. I thought that he outstruck him in some ways, and when he landed on Volk, definitely you could see that Islam had the power advantage. I still think that, at the end of the day, who knocked down who? Volk knocked down Islam. So... near the end of the fight in the 5th round. So I don't know if you could say he outstruck him. If he did, he edged it just barely, But it does show, I guess, how good Islam is. But you do have to factor in the fact that Islam's, a much bigger man. So I don't know. Hard to say with that. Killian Folan says, greatest UFC featherweight of all time. No argument. This message is to Holloway meat riders especially. Yeah, greatest featherweight of all time. Max is a close second, and then you probably got to say Aldo after that, because Max beat Aldo. Yeah, greatest featherweight of all time. We're currently witnessing it. I'd say that's 100% true, and it just shows you the talent level. It's fucking crazy. The bar just keeps getting set higher and higher and higher in these guys. I mean, eventually we're going to see somebody probably be able to surpass Volk. It's typically how this game goes, right? You get, somebody has a title run, but it doesn't last forever. It never does. When Max's title reign was going, it seemed like this man's clearly the best ever, and who the fuck's going to be able to beat him? And yet, look, the bar raises, and Volk comes up and surpasses Max. And now eventually you're going to have somebody surpass Volk, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. You can look through the rankings, and you'd be hard-pressed to point out somebody that's going to be able to top what Volk has done so far. But moving along, this fight, the Moreno-Alex Pantoja, I do have to mention this. One, I was talking with my friends a lot on the video chat, so I wasn't paying full attention to this fight. I wasn't overly excited for it. And this is why when I make these videos, I always mention I'm not an authority on this subject. I'm not some know-it-all. I'm not speaking from some high ground, giving you guys like an expert's opinion. I'm just a fan. I'm just fascinated to talk about all these different topics. And when it comes to the Pantoja-Moreno fight, in the last video, doing a little preview of this card, I thought that they had only fought twice, and I had thought that Moreno won a decision both times. Turns out I was wrong on both regards. This is the third fight they've had, and Moreno lost both the fights. So I apologize for that. I did not go back and watch the fights. I told you guys that. So it's my bad for not doing the due diligence. I think I had just seen something on social media about the decision that had happened last in 2018. Thought that was their first fight. For whatever reason, thought Moreno won. I apologize, guys, but that's why I preface it. I'm a dummy. I just like following this shit. Don't listen to me and, take a check right to the bank from what I said. Do not do that. I don't claim to be the smartest, just claim to be a dude who loves talking about this stuff. That being said, as much as I did pay attention to it, I was talking a lot, and you guys know it's hard to focus, hard to judge a fight when you're in the middle of, blabbing and watching it with your buddies. It was a good fight. It was really sloppy and chaotic and just hectic, which the thing that amazed me was just their gas tanks, and that's a common thing you see at these lower divisions, the speed advantage, and they're just endless cardio machines. It blows my mind. I mean, at the fifth round, they're still fighting almost as crazy as they were with such a high pace as the first and second and third. Just beyond impressive. I have no idea how you can possibly keep up that amount of, cardio endurance in the middle of such a hectic fight. That being said, I can't sit here and say who I thought won. As casually as I did view it, I thought Pantoja won, but I have seen a lot of disagreement on that in the comments and the reactions to it, and I just didn't watch it close enough to give my opinion on that. I will read a couple reactions. This guy's making fun of Moreno. 3MG69 says Moreno is a different fighter with a yawn face, 3-0. Both things can be true, right? He is a different fighter. He's clearly an evolved fighter. I mean, he became champion and had some wild fights with Figueiredo and others. So I think he is a different fighter. That's not to disparage the loss to Pantoja. Pantoja clearly has evolved too. So I don't see any reason to make fun of him for that. They both evolve, and maybe they don't evolve at the exact same rate. And now that you get to see Pantoja under the big lights in his first title fight against Moreno, you got to see him come out on top. Doesn't mean he's not a different fighter, though. Obviously, Moreno has evolved greatly over the years, and it's pretty wild if you don't see that. So Isaiah Cotting on Instagram says, I respect letting them work on the ground, but there's a couple of times it should have been stood up. Don't have a comment on that. Anytime I saw them on the ground, it seemed like they were little Tasmanian devils going after it, constantly pushing the action. So don't know if I agree. I'd have to really go back and give a harder look to be able to give an honest opinion for you guys on that. Shariah says Moreno won this fight. All Pantoja did was hug Moreno's back. Not what I saw. Not what I saw, dude. I saw a war going on. I saw a hectic war going on. So I have to disagree on that one. Brennan1211 says that was rough, watching his wife and kids cry while he was getting booze. Yeah, I saw this earlier, but I didn't actually watch that in real time. I didn't see that happening, so that's pretty sad. I thought Pantoja's post-fight, I saw it this morning, just drinking coffee, eating my breakfast, going through some of the fight news. I saw Pantoja's post-fight talking about, his father, I guess, had. You don't quote me on exactly what happened, but I know that his father had left his family, and he was left to take care of, I think, his two brothers, his family in Brazil, in a poorer part of Brazil, and he was kind of saying like, "Where are you at now, Dad? Are you proud of me now?" That's touching. That's really powerful stuff, man. You got to see the emotion that comes out of these guys when they accomplish something as big as a task as becoming a world champion. You probably see a lot of repressed emotions and difficult things that motivated them to get to this point come out, and it's one of the reasons we respect these guys so much. One of the reasons we love this sport is you get to see them be authentic in the moment. I doubt he planned that like a script. He probably just was so in the moment from winning that, and clearly that was a big motivation in his life, taking care of his family and being put in a difficult position with his father leaving him. And I bet you that dad may be trying to come back and make amends with Pantoja. So props to him, man. What a fight. And we'll have to see. I don't know. Where do they go from here? Do they do a rematch? I don't know if that even makes sense. That'd be a fourth fight. But at the same time, that division is rather, slim pickings. And Moreno, has been a great champion. So I guess if there's an appetite for a fourth fight, it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. Casual Sensei LOL says, bro, this was easily a top 5 fight I've ever watched. I don't know about that. That's a pretty high bar. We've seen some quite amazing fights in the past. I don't know if it's top 5, but top 5 flyweight fight, that would be a fair comment. Brent Novak says all-time fight, but OMG 4 rounds to 1 for Moreno is a felony. I guess I'm assuming he means one of the judges had 4-1 Moreno, and that's why it was a split decision. All-time fight, yeah, shoot, man. I guess I really wasn't paying attention because I didn't think it was an all-time great, nothing like that. Moreno won. This comes from Bamden28. Moreno won, in my opinion, but that was fight of the year. Fight of the year, God, people got a lot of good things to say about this one. I thought it was a great fight, but it wasn't like blowing my hair back. Jeez. Okay, well, let's move on to the Dan Hooker, Jalen Turner fight. I suppose what are we doing? I can't skip past this one, huh? Can't skip past this one. Duplessis versus Robert Whittaker. Pretty much everybody and their mother predicted Whittaker to win this fight, myself included. I said you have to heavily favor him. Of course, if you're any kind of smart and as a fan, you always know there's a chance for any fight. It's a fight. It's a 50-50. It doesn't. Any shot can land on anybody, regardless of their past history. That being said, obviously, you have to favor Whittaker, heavily, and the odds showed that. I was lost. This fight perplexed me, man, because I'm not going to take away from Duplessis' win. It was a crazy win. It was the biggest win of his life, and it set him up for a title fight with Izzy. So, props to him. There's absolutely nothing you can say to take that away. That being said, it did seem to me like something was going on with Whittaker. I don't mean as far as an injury. Could have been an injury. Seemed more to me like a mental thing. Like he just wasn't fighting in his normal style. You saw shades of it. He would go to that, those low kicks. I guess you call it the oblique kick. And, he just wasn't really bouncing around with that karate stance. I didn't really see too many of those fantastic blitzes he does. I saw a few head kicks, but it's just like he was kind of like, I don't know, man. It seemed like he didn't want to be there, right? And it's weird because he's been smoking through the rest of the competition. I mean, Marvin Vettori, Jared Cannonier, Kelvin Gastelum, he's been smoking these guys. And of all those opponents that he faced, it didn't seem to me like Duplessis was the one to even have a chance to be able to best him. Duplessis, go back and watch his Brunson fight. It's so sloppy, man. The technique is like, he's aggressive and he's tough, he's durable, but like as far as the technique goes and the strategy, he was kind of just playing rock'em sock'em robots with Brunson, and Brunson was landing great shots on him, and he ended up coming out on top, but it never left me with the opinion of, he's going to smoke Whittaker or he even has much of a chance. And for whatever reason, the stars aligned, and he had an amazing performance, good game plan. He was neutralizing Whittaker, and just I don't know what the reason was. It was just watching it in real time was very odd. It was very perplexing, and I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, what's going on? Is Duplessis just having the best night of his life, or is Whittaker not want to be in there for whatever reason? I don't know. If it's the mental hurdle of knowing like, shit, if I beat this dude, I have to fight Izzy a third time. I've already been champion, so where's the motivation? we'd have to hear it from him. I'd be curious to go check out his post-fight and see what he has to say about it. He was already smiling and being normal old Whitaker after the end of the fight, so I don't know. Could this be the end of Whitaker? It is possible. It is possible because it's one of those fights where, like, yes, it's just one fight. He could bounce back without a doubt. But also to see him have such a fall from grace in this fight, it's not as if he put up a valiant effort and then, somehow just got bested through a tough decision that was real close. He kind of got smoked, kind of got neutralized and smoked, man, and then TKO'd. And that body shot was wicked from Duplessis against the cage, dropped him, and then that was all she wrote, man. What a fight. Congrats to Duplessis. And as far as the drama in the UFC world goes, this is what we want to see. We don't want to see Whitaker lose. He's a great guy, but we did want to see some fresh talent go up to fight Izzy. I thought that post-fight face-off with Izzy and Duplessis was very bizarre. Izzy, I don't know if he was drunk as hell or what. His voice was like extra deep, and he just kept shouting, you guys know what. And I don't know. That was fucking odd. I don't know if he was just inebriated, but wasn't the Izzy we normally like to see, right? We don't know what was going through his head. We just don't know. I know that he wanted this fight, and I know they have that history of, whatever Duplessis saying he's the African king. Izzy didn't like that, and he took offense to that, and ever since then they've had bad blood. But I don't know, not Izzy's best moment, huh? Normally he's like very intellectual and well thought and, well spoken, and he kind of just broke down and just kind of went wild in that post fight, and Duplessis seemed a little taken aback, and he held his own, so props to him. But the reaction from the fans widely was that they did not appreciate what Izzy was doing. It was not how we wanted it to end, right? It's fine to have some drama, have them face off, but, you'd like it to be competitive drama, not so much just, I don't know what the fuck Izzy was up to, is my point. So this is the opinion a lot of people had on Instagram and Twitter, all over that. Arian17 says, why the fuck is Adesanya so cringe? It was cringe, man. It was pretty cringe. I'm a huge Adesanya fan, and I'm no hater, but I don't know what happened with him there. We'd have to hear it from him. What made him get so fucking angry? Was he kind of just pulling some WWE stuff? I don't know. Was that real? It seemed real, man. He seemed very angry. Jordan Brown says, what a classless way to sell a fight. Imagine talking like that. Next guy, Gibby10CS says, Adesanya is hilarious. PewES23 says, Izzy is a clown. Yeah, a lot of people saying about the same thing. Izzy's so cringe, says Alex Rods 1. Ezekiel the Wolf says Izzy made himself look stupid in the post-fight, trying to ruin Duplessis' moment. Yeah, he was kind of putting a, dampening on his moment, wasn't he? It was odd. It was shocking to me, first of all, just the fight itself was shocking. And then, we're getting a good fight. We're getting a good-ass title fight. What are his chances against Izzy? I don't know. Hard to make any assessment now because he just smoked the second best in the world in 2 rounds. He just put it on him. So I don't know an assessment. I mean, obviously, you have to say Izzy is the favorite in every regard, but it's why we love this sport, man. It's fucking crazy. You never know what's going to happen to anybody has a shot, and some dude out there in the world put some fat bet on Duplessis to finish Whitaker for whatever reason and probably won a lot of money because the odds were, I forget what they were, maybe even plus 1,200, plus 300. So if you put $100 down on Duplessis, you made, I think, like at least $500. So someone out there made it happen. Congrats to them. I wish I would have done it, but I just didn't see this fight going that way. Moving on to Dan Hooker, Jalen Turner, another great fight. The whole card was fire, wasn't it? I mean, there was just no downtime in this card. Dan Hooker didn't have the best start. It seemed like Jalen Turner had the advantage on the feet. Well, he definitely did. He was landing on him. Hooker's got a hell of a chin, as usual. He's eating shots, pressing forward. It got interesting in that second round with the head kick from Jalen Turner. Landed flush on Dan Hooker. And then I think he landed a second head kick that partially got through, rocked Hooker. But one thing that impressed me about Hooker is, man, he kept his wits about him, didn't he? Even after that head kick, he immediately went for the clinch to give himself some time to recover and to not give Jalen Turner that opportunity to create some space and open up on him. So crazy to take a head kick that flush. And, I mean, obviously he had to have been rocked, but he kept his wits about him, went for the clinch, and then, stomped on Jalen Turner the rest of that second round. I thought he took the round. I saw a couple people disagreeing about that, but I thought he turned that second round around, and then the third round was what it was. You saw went to the ground for about half the round, minute or two. They stood up. Hooker got a couple shots in, and that was all she wrote. But thought it was funny. Hooker's blonde hair turned red. It looked like he dyed it red from all that blood. Let's read a couple reactions. Mariano Deliria says, I thought Jalen won that, but great fight. We were kind of, me and my friends were kind of talking about it right before the decision was read off, and we kind of all came to the same conclusion that it was a very competitive, close fight, but that we all three felt that it was very clear that Dan Hooker came out on top. He edged it. But super competitive fight, and had you said Jalen Turner, I don't know if you could have claimed robbery because it was just so close. Okay, let's read some more reactions. I don't really understand this one. Guy Lermo says the fact that Joe Rogan arguing Dan winning the second round is so cringe. I don't see how that's that cringe. Jalen Turner landed those head kicks, and a couple good shots. Dan Hooker was never knocked down, nothing like that. He turned around, like I said, he went for the clinch immediately, so he kept his wits about him, and then he pressed, on Jalen Turner, and then I can't remember, was it a knockdown or a trip that Jalen Turner fell down? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't see that was cringe at all. Diego Plaza says, Dan get that dog in him. Sure does, man. You can just never count that dude out. Sometimes he doesn't follow through on, his potential, but this one, he just dogged it out, in that almost Poirier style. Hooker was the last guy I'd expect. Comes from 369. Hooker was the last guy I'd expect to go toe-to-toe with Turner and win. I don't know how he ate that kick. It was literally shin to chin. It was, man. I was a little surprised he didn't block it because it wasn't as if Jalen Turner really set it up all that beautifully. And we all know that Dan Hooker trains with Adesanya, so I was a little surprised that head kick got through so easily. But, yeah, he ate it and kept pressing on. Okay, wrapping up. Let's see what else we got here. Let's go to Bo Nickel. That was a really impressive finish. What the hell? I don't think anybody here predicted that was going to be a first-round knockout or TKO by Bo Nickel. We didn't know anything about his opponent because he was a fresh replacement, never been in the UFC. I want to say he was like 5-0 or something like that. I think he was undefeated, but it scared me right off the bat to see Bo just kind of going for the striking because, these wrestlers, when they fall in love with their hands, it can be a little dicey, right? And the technique was there, but not there. There's some openings when he's throwing, but I think when you have that wrestling base, I think it's such a big factor because, I think it's such a big factor because there's that constant worry about being taken down. So to me, it seemed that's why the shots landed so easily. I think he blasted a takedown attempt and it was defended. But once you set that up in the opponent's mind, I think his opponent was that was in his head. Oh, he's gonna throw 1-2 and then try to shoot on me. So I got to be ready for the shot. He doesn't knock people out, so I don't really got to be too worried about that. I guess would be his thinking. And then before you know it, boom, boom, uppercut lands, drops him. Thought it was a somewhat early stoppage, but, we could tell that was the direction it was going. The dude was wobbled on his feet, and then, the uppercut followed it, knocked him to the ground. Ref called it, and I think it was a fair stoppage. It was a little early, but I think all it did was save the dude some damage. That fight wasn't turning around, and props to Bo Nickel, dude, to be able to get it done in the first round yet again. I think this is his fifth. Don't quote me on this, but I think fifth first-round finish in a row. So up another one in the books. You got to move him up. You got to move him up, dude. And eventually, he'll get a ranked opponent. I don't think that needs to happen yet, but it'll happen soon. I think this is the way to do it. You don't have to fast track him, on a Darren Till, schedule, but you do got to give him somebody to step up. Obviously, an actual UFC fighter this time, but it's nothing to do with his own fault. This was a last-minute replacement, and he still smoked him, and he smoked him in a way none of us saw. He freaking TKO'd him. Not even one takedown landed. Right? He didn't even take him down once and didn't even go for a submission and got it still in the first round. So what the hell, man? The sky is the limit for that dude. Last fight I'm going to cover before we hop off here is the actually, let's read a couple reactions of the Bo Nickel because that was so impressive. Let's see what people had to say about it. Early stoppage, says Gabby H99. Early stoppage, stop protecting this man. Oh, my God. Always conspiracy theorists. The conspiracy theorists and the UFC community are closely related. Perhaps it was a genius idea for me to do a UFC show mixed in with geopolitics and aliens because a lot of conspiracy theorists in the UFC community stop protecting this man. Dude, the only person getting protected in this fight was his opponent when he got fucking knocked down with an uppercut and was going to get finished on the ground, or at best case for him, get submitted. So don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Best Casual MMA says, can we give him an actual fight? This was an actual fight, to throw somebody in last minute with a 1 or 2 day notice. That tosses up your entire game plan and the training camp that you went through for a different opponent's style. So, that was an actual fight, but I agree. And, we're ready to see a step up in the competition. Bryce Williams says, I'm not going to pretend to be impressed. He hasn't fought a high-level contender yet. Oh, my God, dude. So what? He's new to the UFC. He's got, 2 UFC fights? Give the man a break. God. So these people, man, it's like, come on, dude. He's brand new. And you can't win with these guys because if they feed him to a contender and then he loses, everybody says, oh, why'd the UFC fast track him? They're so stupid. What an awful idea. You should have let him work the way up. He works his way up legitimately, and then people say, oh, you're not fighting real competition. So you just can't win with a lot of these people. Zan Zafano says, ran through a guy who was running his landscaping company on Wednesday. What are you going to do, though? It was a last-minute fight. He can only do what... You can't fault him for that. He can only do what he can do, So many first-round knockouts tonight, says Jack 2004. Yeah, crazy card, man. So impressive. And you love when because as we mentioned in the last UFC episode I did, a lot of the cards that you don't expect to be fire, like maybe an ESPN card, not a lot of name value, ends up being fire, and then sometimes the anticipation is so high for these pay-per-views that it falls a little short, and you find yourself a little underwhelmed at the end of it. This was one of those rare exceptions where the card was predicted to be fire, it looked like it was going to be fire, and, it was a home run right out of the park. It was just a great card in every way, so we love when that happens. Ant UGK says they said he had no hands. Yep, he's got hands. You can't deny that. He's a wrestler with hands, and that's a great combination. He's going to be a problem. I think he could afford to work on that technique down the road, but that's going to come with experience. Last fight we're going to cover is Robbie Lawler and Nico Price. What else can you say except props off to Robbie Lawler? This was obviously his retirement fight. Nico Price, I was worried about within the first 10 seconds of the fight. I was like, shit, I should have put money on Robbie Lawler because Nico... I think he's just chinny. Reminds me of James Vick, a lot of talent. He actually beat James Vick back in the day, I think with a crazy up kick. But it reminds me of James Vick where just the chin goes one day and then, you may be talented as all get out, but once the chin goes, it goes and it doesn't come back, it seems like. And while the shots were impressive that Robbie Lawler landed, the final one that landed that knocked him down was kind of on the side of the head. It didn't really look like it was in the temple, and it sent him night-night, dude. He went to the Netherlands, So Robbie took no damage. What was it? 38 seconds, to finish Nico. Hats off to Robbie. As they were saying on the broadcast, this never happens. There's usually no fairy tale endings in the UFC, and typically whether you're a champion, a contender, or just, a normal contender or fighter, it doesn't really matter. You always seem to go out on your back at the end of the day when you leave this sport. And when we see the rare exception, such as tonight or last night, it's always impressive, man. So hats off to Robbie. That was crazy. What else can you say? There wasn't much fight there. I don't think he got landed on really once, and he slept him, took no damage. That's all she wrote. Perfect. It was a great card. I am going to be hopping on in the next couple of days with another episode. I just wanted to get this one out quick because I had a lot of thoughts on my mind about it. And, I'm going to be tired today for sure. So it was a good one, though. Great card, worth staying up for. One of these days, I wish that they would care about us East Coast folk and start the card at 7 so it could be done at 11, go to bed at a normal time. Because I always work on Sundays, and boy, does it make for a long 10-hour day when you don't get much sleep. But alas, we love the sport so much, we can deal with being a little tired. So I love you guys. Make sure, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, I just made a Discord for Mixed Martial Arts. It's in the link in the description of this and on my About section on the YouTube channel. I would really love if you guys follow that because it's a way that we can turn this from Austin monologue, just speaking to you guys directly, to being able to have an interactive conversation on a daily basis, talking about the UFC news, UAP news, and World War III geopolitical topics that are constantly popping up. To be able to keep that conversation going on daily, I wanted to make a Discord so we can just chat back and forth about ideas, questions, topics you guys want to discuss related to these fields. So I would literally love if you followed that. I haven't promoted it yet, so you probably, whoever sees this and decides to follow it, you'll probably be one of the first couple people in there. But I'm going to make sure to post in there every day once we get some guys in there. And I'd love to just talk with you guys. I love speaking, but, sometimes it feels like it's a one-way monologue, and I would love to be able to interact back and forth with you guys. So follow the Discord at Mixed Martial Arts. Just click the link. If you guys are listening to this on Spotify Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, please just hit follow. It's free, and it helps me be able to grow this thing. And lastly, on YouTube, if you're watching it, just hit subscribe, please. I want to hit 1,000 subscribers so that we can start to do the live chats. I think you can't do that to 1,000. So could really use your guys' help for that. I'm just doing this for fun. I love talking about this stuff. It never gets old to me. And I just got tired of just talking to friends about it privately. I was like, fuck it, man. I'm going to make a channel and just talk about this stuff because it's so much fun. And all three of these worlds, UFC, geopolitical, and UAP, are just booming. There's so much to talk about constantly. It's overwhelming, and I'd love to be able to create a conversation on this and just a community of, like-minded folks that love discussing this stuff, that are equally as fascinated as I am and just want to blab about it all day. I'd love to have you. So join the Discord, subscribe, follow me. I appreciate you guys. We'll be back in the next couple of days with, I think, a geopolitical episode. So stay tuned for that. I love y'all. Have a good Sunday. Peace out.